Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is February 12th, 2024, and there's currently an internal crisis at FC Barcelona within the board of directors. Also, I'm going to tell you about the hefty price that Almeria want for Dion Lopy. And finally, reports are saying that Barcelona are considering Xabi Alonso as a possible replacement for Xavi Hernandez. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and this is Barca News' official live podcast on every Mondays and Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Where not only do we discuss the news, but we also get to interact with all of you through the chat section, reading your comments out loud, answering any questions, and getting that discussion going. Now, for those of you who will be watching the podcast, once it ends, I will be putting timestamps in the description, chapters in the timeline. That way you can skip through the discussion if that's what you want to do. And of course, this is not to be confused with the post-match live analysis where we analyze Barcelona's matches live as soon as they end. Having said all that, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. All of this helps this channel continue to grow so I can continue bringing you the most up-to-date news in regards to our beloved club, FC Barcelona. Now let's dive right into the news because today Athletic Club de Bilbao drew against Almeria. And what does that mean for Barcelona? It means that this is the third gift that we have wasted during this La Liga week. Now you might ask, what do I mean by that? Well, let's look at La Liga table, and I will make this bigger for you guys. But as you can see, Athletic Club Bilbao are currently sitting fifth with 46 points. So 5 points behind us since we have 51. Now, Athletic Club did drop 2 points today. And had we won our match against Girona, we would have 53, which means we would have 7 points more than Athletic Club de Bilbao. But instead, we only have 5 because of that disastrous performance and disastrous result that we had yesterday against Girona. The second gift that we wasted, Atletico de Madrid, they lost against Sevilla 0-1. They have 48 points right now, 3 points behind us. Had we won, we would be 5 points ahead of them. But instead, we're only 3 points ahead. The third gift that we wasted is that of Girona, who lost against Real Madrid. And we had the chance to cut the distance between us and be only 3 points away. But instead, we drew. So now we are 5 points behind Girona. And honestly, it's not looking good because Atletico de Madrid and Athletic Club de Bilbao, they all want the third and fourth position on La Liga so they can qualify to the Champions League. We want it too. So that's 3 teams battling for 2 spots, and it could get dicey. And I have to say, these last 3 months of La Liga are going to be incredibly long months, and I'm very nervous about the result. Now, I'm even more nervous about the result because today it was published that Barcelona are officially the worst defensive team, or have the worst defensive record in Europe's top 5 leagues in the year 2024. Now, the year just started, but nonetheless, this is a very sad statistic because it's only February and Barcelona have conceded 23 goals. Yes, you heard that right. What we used to concede in an entire season, sometimes even less. We've conceded it in 1 month. So 23 goals in 11 matches in 2024. And this makes us the worst. This makes us the worst team as far as defense in Europe's top 5 leagues. Who is in second place, you ask? It's Frosinone. I think that's how you say it. It's a team from the Serie A. They're in 14th place. God knows who they are. And in third place is Sheffield United. So we have conceded more goals than Sheffield United, who are currently sitting at the bottom of the Premier League, dead last. They're in 20th spot, and we have conceded more goals than them. Extremely, extremely worrying statistics, especially again when you couple that with the fact that we need to finish in the top four, and we have Atletico de Madrid and Athletic Club de Bilbao breathing on our necks because we could have extended the lead, but instead we had the disastrous performance and disastrous result that we had yesterday. Now, not all is bad news, because I do have some pretty exciting numbers, and it concerns our golden boy Lamine Yamal, because yesterday we know he scored a brace, and with that, Lamine Yamal has officially become the youngest player in the history of the Spanish league to score a brace at 16 years old. But that's not all, because he set another record, which he became the youngest player in the history of the Spanish league to reach 10 goals and 10 assists, or 10 goal contributions, however you want to look at it. Because so far, Lamine Yamal has scored 5 goals and provided 5 assists. So he's the youngest to reach the 10 goal assist number. He's the youngest to score a brace. He was already the youngest to score in the history of La Liga. And he also has the record for the youngest player to score with the Spanish national team in the history of Spain. And if he scores in the Champions League, he could become the youngest player to score in the history of the Champions League. That record is, of course, right now being held by Ansu Fati, who scored at 17 years of age. So incredible numbers, incredible records by Lamine Yamal, who, by the way, not only was he absolutely phenomenal offensively in yesterday's match, but he actually had the most ball recoveries, with 8 ball recoveries, more than our center backs, more than our midfield, more than anyone else. So not only did he score a brace, put the team on his back, and gave us that point against Granada, but on top of that, he also had the most ball recoveries. Absolutely incredible. We're very, very lucky to have this youngster on our team. But let's start with the chat section. Let's do a few comments, and then we will talk about Joan Laporta and his decision in regards to Xavi Hernandez continuity. All right, let's see. Igor says, sneaking Xavi for Xavi as if we wouldn't notice. Good one. And my man Ross, who is back in the chat section, he says, how real is that De Jong wants to leave? Also, you think that we could lose Araujo to Bayern? Esto es no bueno, amigo. Okay, as far as Frankie De Jong, it's pretty real. He hasn't made up his mind to leave, but he is having doubts. And I say it's pretty real because the one who reported that is Luis Canut. Luis Canut is a journalist who's very close to Frankie. So if Luis Canut is saying it, there has to be truth to it. Another thing, Barcelona made a renewal offer to Frankie De Jong 3 months ago. That's before Xavi Hernandez's announcement to resign. And Frankie De Jong is yet to reply to that offer. That offer does not include a salary reduction. So, you might say, well, maybe he wants to stay, but he doesn't want to reduce his salary. No, there's no salary reduction in that offer. He still hasn't replied. He hasn't even given feedback. So maybe he didn't like the offer, but he hasn't even said that. He hasn't even said, hey, let's change this, let's change that. Nothing. So it's pretty true. As far as Araujo has made it clear he doesn't want to leave. Barcelona have made it clear that they don't want to sell him. And in fact, they're already working on renewing him. So, I don't know. Richard says, it's great, but troubling that he's being relied on to carry us and being made that many games and minutes. 100% agree. I'm very happy that Lamine Yamal is shining the way he is with our team. But of course, the fact that a 16-year-old has to carry us, it's a pretty sad thing. It's a very sad thing. Let's see. Some buff says, will Xabi Alonso even consider Barcelona? He's a Real legend, just like Xavi wouldn't have considered Real. I don't think Xavi will come here. We'll talk about Xabi Alonso later on. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Having said that, let's get back into the news, because yesterday after the match, there were reports about Joan Laporta's extreme anger at what he was seeing, especially after the third goal that Granada scored. Seeing that Joan Laporta completely lost it. He was throwing things around. He was throwing glasses, trays, etc. And he was so upset that people had to step in to calm him down, because he was absolutely furious, not only about the result and the fact that Barcelona wasted a chance of slashing a distance between them and Girona, but also at the fact that the image that the team was leaving on the field, a pathetic team, a mediocre team being led by a mediocre coach. So he's extremely, extremely upset, and people started talking about, is John Laporta going to end up keeping Xavi Hernandez until the end of the season? Because for now, John Laporta has agreed to allow Xavi to resign at the end of the season. He said it himself. If this was any other coach, he would have sacked him. But because it's Xavi, he's a legend. He's willing to keep him until the end of the season. But after yesterday's episode, a lot of people started doubting maybe Laporta is not going to be that patient. Well, today is being reported that now that things have calmed down a little bit, the president has leapt on his ideas, his anger, whatever. He has decided that he's not going to sack Xavi Hernandez, and that Xavi Hernandez will continue until the end of the season. Now, within the club, if you ask anyone at the club, nobody can guarantee you right now that Xavi will indeed continue until the end of the season. They're saying that John Laporta is actually getting a lot of pressure from other people within the club to sack Xavi already. For now, John Laporta is still defending Xavi, and he wants him to stay until the end of the season, but the pressure is mounting, and the pressure is becoming more and more and more. So do not discard the idea that John Laporta might end up changing his mind and might end up sacking Xavi Hernandez, especially if Barcelona get eliminated at the hands of Napoli. Because Barcelona need to qualify to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Barcelona have already budgeted for that in their budget to make it to the quarterfinals. If we don't make it to the quarterfinals, the budget will be thrown out of whack. And if that happens, do not rule out the possibility of John Laporta sacking Xavi before the end of the season. But even then, he might not even have to do that, because today, Javi Miguel dropped the bombshell saying that if Xavi Hernandez cannot beat Napoli and Barcelona get eliminated in the round of 16, Xavi will step down from his post, leaving Barcelona before the end of the season. So the possibility of Xavi not even finishing the season is pretty high right now. There's a chance that Laporta might end up caving to the pressure and sacking him. And even if that doesn't happen, there's a chance that Xavi leaves himself if Barcelona get eliminated against Napoli, which is only a week away or a week and a half. So stay tuned, because there's drama, and there's going to be a lot of drama. I personally said it before. I don't think it'd be a good idea to remove Xavi right now, because we can't bring anyone due to the financial fair play, and therefore we would have to put Rafa Marquez in Xavi's place. And that's not going to make things better. Rafa Marquez is not going to turn things around. It's just not going to happen. He also doesn't have experience. There's also not enough time left in the season for Rafa Marquez to change things around. And all is that going to do is leave Barca Athletic without a coach, and maybe even cause Rafa Marquez to end up getting fired, because he's not going to change things around. If he doesn't change things around, which is not going to happen, the fans might end up turning against him. And why risk that when Rafa Marquez has nothing to do with the situation? But that's my opinion. You let me know, what do you guys think? Should Barcelona sack Xavi before the end of the season? Should they wait? Let me know. All right. And my man Klaus, he says, big up Mo. What's up, Klaus? I'm glad to see you in the chat section. Let's see. Valerian says, it's understandable. Xavi is Barca legend, but conceding club is more important. He should be sacked, and new manager should be appointed and save club from more embarrassment. We cannot appoint a new manager. There's no financial fair play rule space, so we cannot bring someone. If Xavi gets sacked, it's gonna be Rafa Marquez who takes his place. Richard says, good. We need a president to be pissed, considering how much levers they've had to pull for these players. He used part of his own money to buy a couple of these players. Agree, 100%. But people still want to say, oh, Xavi didn't get his signings. That's why he's failing. Come on. Blarana Kule says, also, I heard rumors that Barcelona are eyeing Enzo. No truth to that. Enzo's not planning to leave Chelsea, and we cannot afford Enzo if we try to, sign him without him agreeing to leave or, I think it's something like 120 or something like that, his price. That's no way. Let's see. Yami says, hit the like, guys. Mo, you would agree that this Barca DNA is no longer a thing? Not at all. I would not agree to that at all. Pep Guardiola just won a treble using Cruyffism. Arteta is doing it at Arsenal. Hansi Flick plays possession football, and he won a sextuple with that. So no, I don't agree at all. What we need is what Guardiola, what Arteta have done, which is evolve it. It's not getting rid of all of it, just adapt it to modern times. And that's what Guardiola has done, and he's won a sextuple. Did he win a sextuple? Was it a treble only? It doesn't matter. Arteta's doing that. Girona, they're doing that. I mean, De Zerbi, everybody's like, oh, De Zerbi, bring De Zerbi. That's exactly what he does. So no, this whole myth that somehow Cruyffism is dead is not. It just evolved. That's all. Okay, let's get back to the news because we do have to talk about Deco. I reported last night that Deco had made a statements during an interview to a Portuguese media outlet where he talked about what seemed to be the end of Cruyffism. If you haven't watched the video or you haven't come across the statements, I will read them to you again, just so you know what we're talking about. But this is what Deco said during his interview. He said, a new direction is fundamental, and the president, Joan Laporta, agrees with me on this. Profound change is needed. There's a method that's exhausted. We need to find someone who will break with the past once and for all and move into a new paradigm. Immediately after these statements were made available to the press, Deco got a lot of backlash from club members, socios, directors, fans, etc., because it seemed like what he was talking about was the end of Cruyffism, because he's talking about a method that's been exhausted, that we need to move to a new paradigm. And that caused a lot of anger. But today, Deco came out and said that that's not what he meant. And also the reporter who did this interview had also released a statement saying that that's not exactly what Deco said, that it had been taken out of context. But then Gerard Romero published the transcript of the interview, and that's exactly what Deco said. But nonetheless, the story that they're trying to tell us right now is that that's not what he meant. He was not talking about the end of Cruyffism, that we have to shift away from Cruyffism. What supposedly Deco was talking about was changing the project, right? Because we had a project under Xavi. Xavi has decided to resign. Therefore, we need to move away from that project into a new one, bring a new coach, and start a new project. Now, it seems that Deco also met with Xavi Hernandez because Xavi seemed like he was taken by surprise about these statements, and he was not too happy about it. So apparently him and Deco met. Deco explained the same thing to Xavi, that it's not that we need to move away from Cruyffism, that he's just talking about starting a new project since Xavi's leaving and they're going to have to bring a new coach. And the reports say that supposedly Xavi accepted this explanation and things are fine and dandy and everything is good and everything is amazing. Now, whether Deco really meant that or not, whether he was talking about the end of Cruyffism or not, whether he was talking about the end of the project or not, we won't know. But one thing we do know is that right now, there's a crisis within Barcelona. And right now, this is getting out of hand. And this is going from being a sporting crisis and spilling into a management crisis. Because we've seen a lot of different stories from a lot of different board members, and we cannot figure out who is telling the truth and who is not. First, Deco comes out and says, oh, the coach is going to be chosen as a group effort. And the second day, Laporta comes out and says, oh, it's going to be Deco who chooses the next coach. But then internal sources come out and say, no, it's Laporta. So which one is it? Is it Laporta? Is it Deco? Is it a group effort, right? Then Deco comes out and says, oh, we need to move away from the paradigm. No, that's not what I meant. I mean the project. And right now, it's a total chaos in Barcelona. Every person from the board of directors is saying a different thing when they are being interviewed. There's no unified message, and we don't know what the hell is going on. And that's not good, because the sporting crisis, that can be fixed. We can bring in new coach, new staff. We can change players around, and that can be fixed. But if the management is also having a crisis, then that's a bigger problem. And I think right now, Barcelona or Joan Laporta needs to put things in order. He needs to get his shit together, because what we're seeing is extremely unprofessional, with every board of director members giving us a different version of the story, and they can't even agree on the message that they're trying to send out there. That is indicative of a crisis, of a management crisis, and it needs to be fixed. I think what Barcelona need to do right now is go into crisis mode, just like companies do. Get a committee together, or a subcommittee, whatever you want to call it, and they need to sit down and figure out what the hell is going on, what's going wrong, how to fix it, come out with a plan, and not leave that meeting room until they have a plan to fix things. Because right now, it's total chaos. It's chaos on the field, and it's chaos in the boardroom. And that needs to be fixed ASAP. I've always said it, I'm a fan of Laporta. I like what he's doing with the club as far as getting us out of the financial hole. He's cut expenses all across the board. He's gotten rid of some of the highest paid players. He's reduced the wage bill by 200 million. He's signed 28 new sponsors. He came up with the viability plan. Like, we're on the course to financial recovery thanks to him. But just like we praise him when he does good things, we also got to call him out when things are being done bad. And right now, things are being managed badly. And the club needs to be run more professionally. There needs to be a unified message. There needs to be a committee, a crisis committee, emergency committee, whatever you want to call it, to figure out what the hell is going on, how are we going to get out of this mess, and implement that plan. And we need a CEO, because Laporta cannot keep dipping his toes into every topic of Barcelona. Ever since the CEO, Soriano, left, Laporta has not replaced him, even though he promised he would. And now what we're seeing is Laporta trying to manage every little aspect of the club, and that cannot happen. We need a CEO. Duties need to be divided, because if you're just trying to do everything yourself, you're only going to half-ass everything, versus just focus on what you're supposed to do and have other professionals who are capable to focus on what they're supposed to do. But that's my take. Anyways, let's get back to the chat section. And then we will talk about Dion Lopy. Let's see. Igor says, absolutely agree. It's insanity to fire the manager midway through the season. 2 goals left, and Xavi's capable of meeting them. We can make it even worse by sacking him. We could make it worse. I don't know if he's capable of meeting the goals, but we'll see. I hope so. Richard says, Mo, with this being troubling times currently, when do you see the light at the end of the tunnel? When do you see good things coming? This is depressing. Need some hope. I mean, it depends, right? As far as what's going on right now with management, I think they need to get a hold of things immediately. As far as the sporting project, probably we're not looking until the summer, when we're going to need to start over. We're going to need new coach, new staff, new physical trainers, new doctors, etc. The squad is going to have to be revamped. Not too much, because we have a lot of young talent, but some players will need to be offloaded. Maybe bring a couple reinforcements. Of course, the first season, we're not going to see immediate results, but I think we'll see an improvement. As far as financially, we're talking about 2025, 2026. That's when the club should be out of the red zone, if we stay on the course that Laporta has set us on. All right, let's see. Stray Cat says, I honestly don't think Xavi's a bad coach, just inexperienced. If he had time coaching teams, it's different. Maybe. I mean, maybe he's bad, maybe he's inexperienced, maybe he's both. Either way, it doesn't matter, because the point is he's not the man to lead Barcelona. Whatever the reason is, it doesn't matter. What we know is he just cannot lead Barca, and we need someone who can. Larana Kule says, I don't know why, but something in my gut doesn't fully trust Deco. I don't know why. I mean, I'm not fully trusting of Deco either. I think part of it had to do with how how he stuck us with Rafinha, even though it was his client, and technically he should have, yes, be looking out for the best of his client. I don't like how Guardiola had to kick him out. Obviously, something was not right there because he was a great player, and for Guardiola to come and kick him out, he must have had his reasons. So yeah, some things don't fully give me trust. There's the fact that he's inexperienced as a sporting director, but we can only go by what he is actually doing. And so far, he's done a decent job. I can't say he's done amazing, oh my God, but he hasn't done bad either. I think he's done a really good job scouting young talent, but we can only judge him about as far as what he does as a sporting director in that role, to try to bring up other things from his past, like when he was a player, he's an agent. I think it wouldn't be fair, but I don't know. Anyways, let's talk about Dion Lopy. This is someone we talked about in a past video. He's a 22-year-old Senegalese defensive midfielder who currently plays for Almeria. Really tall, strong, physical defensive midfielder, kind of like what the profile of a pivot or of a center midfielder that Deco's looking for. And we talked about Dion Lopy because Barcelona were considering him as kind of a low-cost option, right? Because Barcelona ideally would like to sign Amadou Onana. But of course, Amadou Onana, Everton are reportedly looking to get 90 million for him. Barcelona want to make an offer for 40 million, which the only way it would work it's if Onana says, I only want to go to Barca. Then it would work. So Dion Lopy was kind of like the other option, the low-cost option, given that his market value is only 6 million euros. He's just signed for Almeria from the Ligue 1 team Stade de Reims. And today we find out how much Almeria want. And well, they want 40 million euros. You heard that right. Almeria want 40 million euros, even though they signed him for 6.5 this past summer. And the reason why Almeria want 40 million euros is because when Almeria signed them, Stade de Reims added a 20% clause of any future sales. So whatever money Almeria get for Dion Lopy, they're going to have to give 20% of it to Stade de Reims. That's why they want a lot more, because they know they're going to be left with only 80%. So Almeria they want 40. That way they can make 30, 32. And that, of course, puts Dion Lopy out of range for Barcelona, because even though Barcelona are willing to spend 40, they're willing to spend that on Onana, not on Dion Lopy. He was supposed to be the low-cost option. So that kind of puts him out of reach for Barcelona. Now, there are other interests in Dion Lopy from the Premier League and the Bundesliga clubs. Supposedly, Almeria received a lot of offers between 10 to 15 million this winter. They rejected all of them because, again, they want the 40. But let's remember that Almeria are sitting last in the Liga table. And if they do get relegated, there's a chance that they might have to slash the price, because obviously when you get relegated, you're missing out on the profits, on revenues that you get from playing in the first division. So you become desperate to get income, and you might have to just slash the price just to ensure that he gets signed by someone else and you get that money. If that happens, there's a chance. If they insist on the 40, I think that pretty much rules out Barcelona from the race for Dion Lopy. All right, let's see. Enoch says, why you prefer Nagelsmann? Who you prefer, Nagelsmann or Hansi Flick? Do you think Xabi should be assistant coach of Pep and then coach the B team and then come to the first team? I think the Xabi chapter is over. I think he came too early. I don't know what's gonna happen next, but this whole go and get experience and then come back, I think the chapter is over. Laporta offered him the Barca Athletic job. He told him, take the Barca Athletic, get experience, and then we'll promote you. He said, no, I want first team or nothing. Well, he got a first team. He burned himself. He honestly he wasted his own opportunity. So I don't think he should do any of that. Plus, I mean, Pep has to want to have Xabi on his staff for that to work. And I don't see why Pep is going to want an inexperienced coach on his staff when Pep surrounds himself with some of the most brilliant people in the footballing world. But as far as who I prefer, honestly, I don't care. Someone who can get this team going. Not because my or Hansi. Maybe I prefer Flick a little bit more, but we need someone. King Had says, "Hey Mo, this season is already in a dry spell. I believe the entire medical staff should be fired and Hansi Flick should be coached. Deco needs to choose the coach himself. We need to finish this year well." By the way, the medical staff was fired when Xabi became coach, and he brought his own medical staff. And look where we at. Okay, let's see. Valerian says, "Mo, do you Laporta reached to Matteo Alemany and requested him to come back?" That's next. And with that, let's talk about the two reports. First one is that John Laporta traveled to Mallorca, where Matteo Alemany has a residence, and met with Alemany and asked him to come back to the club. But Alemany said no because he had different ideas for his future. Some are talking about him maybe becoming the sporting director of Atletico de Madrid. There's also talks about him maybe running for president of the Royal Spanish Football Federation. There's also talks about him being sporting director in the Premier League. So supposedly, Alemany said no to Laporta, but that has been completely denied. That yes, John Laporta was in Mallorca, but he was not there to meet with Alemany. He was there on separate business. This has been completely denied by the club that they supposedly met with Alemany. I honestly believe it because remember, it's Alemany who decided to quit, and that's when Barcelona hired Deco, and Alemany said, "Never mind, I want to stay." And Barcelona said, "You can stay, but we already hired Deco, so you're going to have to be in a different position. You cannot be the sporting director because we already gave your job away because you're the one who quit." And it's Alemany who said, "Okay, never mind, then I'm just going to leave." So I do believe the club that did not reach out to him because at the end of the day, he's the one who decided to leave. They gave him the chance to stay. He still said no. I don't see why the club would then go try to get him again when he already said no twice. The second report is that Barcelona are reportedly incredibly impressed with Xabi Alonso. He is currently doing amazing with Bayer Leverkusen. They're sitting at the top of the Bundesliga. I think he's undefeated in all competition, if I'm not wrong. But obviously doing an incredible job. And he is showing that he has what it takes to become an elite coach and become a coach of a big club. So the reports are saying that directors within the club are very impressed with him and would like him to replace Xavi Hernandez. Well, I'm here to tell you that report is absolutely false. Yes, there's plenty of admiration in the club for what Xabi Alonso is doing. But there's no intention of Barcelona to bring Xabi Alonso over. He's a Madridista through and through. Let's not remember that he was there during the darkest times between Barcelona and Real Madrid, which is when Jose Mourinho was coach, which people are saying bring Jose Mourinho. But no, there's no truth to Barcelona wanting to bring Xabi Alonso. There's also no truth that Barcelona reached out to Matteo Alemany to bring him back. Both reports are false. Sorry if I got your hopes up, but just like I have a duty to bring you the news, I also have a duty to tell you about the false reports out there because a lot of times there are plenty. Anyways, let's do the comment section. Actually, I want to say something real quick because I want to talk, since we are talking about coaches, a lot of people have been saying in the comment section, why is Barcelona talking about signing players when we don't even have a coach? And there's two reasons. First of all clubs plan their transfer markets months in advance because there's a lot of work and a lot of research that goes into a transfer market. First, you have to analyze your own squad, understand what positions need to be reinforced. Can you reinforce them from within? Do you need to go to market? Then you have to analyze your finances and the financial fair play to see how much money can you spend, how much money can you spend per position, what kind of contracts you're going to be able to register. And based on that, you make your decisions. Third, you have to research the market. You got to see what players are out there, what are their contract situation, what are the chances that their club's going to say yes, what are the chances that they're going to say yes, what kind of salaries they're going to want, what kind of transfer fees do you expect to pay. And obviously, you have to have several options per position because just because you have an option doesn't mean it's going to work out. So you gotta have to have a backup for that in case the player says no, and then you have to have a backup for the backup and work your way down. So that takes a lot of work, a lot of research. So that's why clubs plan in advance their transfer markets, and that's why Barcelona are looking into players right now. Because if Barcelona waits until they hire a coach in the summer, by then you're too late. You're not gonna sign anyone. The second reason is, and I strongly believe this because a lot of people are like, oh, you should wait for the coach to make the signings. I honestly do not believe in that at all. Yes, coaches should have their own signings, but so should clubs. Because if you let the coach make all the signings by himself, he chooses all the players. He's going to choose all players based on his style. And when that coach inevitably leaves, which he will leave, what are you going to do with all those players? Now you're stuck with all these players that play a certain style. And what are you going to do? So I believe that, yes, coaches should pick their signings, but clubs should also pick their own signings with the club's future in mind, making signings that are going to work out regardless of who the coach is, versus just having the coach pick all his players. And then when he leaves, you're like, what do we do? So that's why Barcelona are now in the market. You have to plan ahead. And also, clubs need to make their own signings. Coaches cannot make all the decisions on their signings. Okay, let's see. Javid says, Mo, with Flick, Barca players will have to constantly be playing in other teams half all the time. That will have to start. I don't think I understand what you're trying to say. All right. King Hud says, Xabi Alonso needs to stay in Leverkusen for a few reasons. Coaches are not always able to teach their philosophies to new teams easily, and if he fails, he'd be ridiculed. Xabi for Al Sadd, then for us. Don't worry, Xabi Alonso's not coming to Barcelona. There talks about Liverpool wanting Xabi Alonso. Ross says, Laporta's belly is getting bigger with each loss. He is just eating. Mo, who do you like personally between Flick and Nagelsmann? It's actually been, he got a really bad health care, Laporta, because of the level of the stress that he's been experiencing. He actually ended up in the hospital. And right now he is working with some dietitians and exercise trainers and psychologists and doctors, etc., because he had a really, really bad health scare due to all the pressure. Who do I choose between Nagelsmann and Flick? I think I'm leaning more towards Flick, but Nagelsmann wouldn't be a bad option. But I think I prefer Flick just because he obviously accomplished a lot more. I mean, to take a team midway through the season who's struggling and to end up winning a sextuple with them, that's pretty amazing. Joseph says, Mo, Flick is good for Barca. We should go for him. And Fireboy says, what was your take from Barca versus Granada? I fell into depression watching that game. I did a post-match live analysis. If you want to hear what I had to say about the match, check out the video on the channel. And that is all. One last thing I do want to mention, because I've been getting this a lot ever since the news came out saying that Barcelona need to sell players and raise money. A lot of people have started to suggest that we should sell all of our stars, and then that would fix our finances. And to that, I say selling all of our stars is not going to fix our finances. Barcelona owe 1.2 billion euros. And if you sell our stars, you might be able to raise 2, 3, maybe 400 million. It's not going to cover the debt. We're still going to be €1 billion in debt. So selling our stars is not going to fix the problem. What's going to fix the problem is reducing our expenses as much as possible, which is something the club has been doing, and increasing our revenue as much as possible, which is something that the club has also been doing, because that way the smaller your expenses are and the bigger your revenue is, the more money left over at the end of the season you have. And after several seasons, that money accumulates and you can pay off your debt and get out of the financial problems. So selling stars is not going to fix your finances. If anything, it's going to make them worse. How? Well, one way to increase the revenues of the club is through new sponsorships. Companies don't want to sponsor teams with no stars. That's the reality of this. So we won't be able to get new sponsors. But not only that, we risk that current sponsors end up leaving, because a lot of these sponsorship contracts are contingent on certain players being on the squad. For example, when Messi left, Barcelona lost a lot of sponsors, right? Then there's the issue of ticketing. There's a lot of people who go to the stadium not because they're Barcelona hardcore fans, but because they want to see certain players. Get rid of the stars, those people go away. Same with TV rights. There's a lot of people who watch Barcelona matches for the players, not because they're hardcore fans. Those players go away. So do those people, kind of like when Messi left. And there's merchandise, right? A lot of people buy the jerseys of players who are famous. Get those players away, you lose that money. So selling your stars is not going to fix your finances. It's going to make them worse. You're going to lose sponsorship money, merchandise money, TV money, ticketing money. And you also lose the money from the competitions, because if you sell all your stars, you're going to be struggling for a while, and you're not going to qualify to the Champions League. You're not going to qualify to the Spanish Super Cup, etc., etc. So it only is going to make things worse. So no, selling all the players is not going to solve our problems. It's only going to make them worse. All right, let's do a couple more comments, and then we will end this. Webb Johnson says, I respect Flick and all, but I'm a bit doubtful of his defensive strategies. Bayern used to be exposed a lot at the back. I mean, you can't have it both ways. You either play defensively or you play and hope, for counters, or you play offensively and you're left exposed. You can't have it both ways. I mean, Cruyffism, Johan Cruyff did not care how many goals his team would concede, as long as he scored more. And that was part of his philosophy. Because when you play the Barcelona style of play, possession ball, you're advancing all your lines, you're using your entire team to attack, you're going to be exposed. There's no way around it. So the only way to combat that is to make sure you dominate and you score more goals. It's just the reality of it. So you can't have it both ways. And it worked for Flick because he won a sextuple. So yeah, he was exposed, he got scored on, but he scored more. Hassan says, hi Mo, Barcelona need to bring manager that can help the team, obviously. And Vaughn says, Barcelona has to get a competent coach. It's great to bring back former players as coaches, but that won't help Barca. All right, guys, that is it for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching, for your likes, for your subscriptions. You guys are absolutely amazing. I will see you in tomorrow's video. Have a good night or good morning wherever you are. And as always, peace, guys.